Hello, this is a video response to Kayla Thompson's post. Take two, so hopefully this one will stick. So, first of all, what you got out of the Leopold reading, one of the things that struck me from your take on the Leopold reading was understanding the source of where things come from, understanding the kind of life cycle of what we consume and what's surrounding us, what's in our life, and I would even say what's natural, what's more natural, and what we've manufactured, which is debatable as to whether that's natural, unnatural, or where natural even ends. But I like the idea that you brought that up very much. And also this idea that there are things we know, there are things we don't know, there are things we don't even know that we don't know. Not to sound too much like Karl Rove. Well, no, it wasn't Karl Rove. Anyway, there's a sort of ominous tone to it. So, really that is a very important thing to think of, is that we don't even know all of the issues that are coming up. We should do all that we can within what we do know and continue searching out more details about our environment, about the things that we do, the processes that have to happen in order for us to have anything in our lives, consume anything, whatever. So great point. Do we really even want to know? I think a lot of people don't. But it seems like one of the bottom lines for you out of this was awareness, and how important awareness is. Awareness of our connections, and awareness of the history and life cycle of things. So good point, and that's kind of a different one. Other people in their videos seem to focus on some other things, so it's great to have something that's a bit different. So in the McDonough and Braungart reading, I think what you seem to get at was this idea of we don't just want to be better, we want to be the best that we can be. I think that's a great idea and a great sort of ethic. I would have liked to hear more details on what you mean by the best we can be. How do we define that? What does that really mean? They do bring up some ideas in the text that I think can point us in the right direction, or a right direction. So you talked about kind of a truly sustainable solution for the future, which is a great thing. I would like to know, what does that look like? What does it look like beyond the kind of utopian vision that we can kind of come up with in our head? What are some of the nuts and bolts of what that would be? I think that's one of the things that the text can kind of give us, or it has some ideas, and some of them I don't totally agree with either. So I would love to hear you kind of engage with some of those details a bit more. You gave a good rundown of Agyeman and kind of all the kind of list of things proposed by Agyeman. One of the things that I think of that's very interesting is the idea of reciprocal obligation. So how do you even get people to feel reciprocal obligation, or understand that they're already part of a reciprocal system? That's a very difficult thing to do, I think. So that's one of the things that kind of came to mind for me, is how do we do that? How do we inspire that in people? I think you absorbed that very well, but I would like to hear maybe some examples or applications of that. If you have some examples from your own experience, or from from the news or whatever, different ideas of how these things happen, or how they could happen, how we could have such a society or such a vision of sustainability, or even some negative examples, things that don't represent that are good too. Back to McDonough and Braungart and Ford. Ford's an interesting one, and I think they maybe put him on too much of a pedestal, or even the corporation, partially because they've worked with them and they've done some really great work with Ford. They completely revamped something that was basically an industrial wasteland that Ford had created into something that's this fantastic, sustainable, relatively sustainable factory. But is that enough? Is it enough? Is it enough for any corporation? Ford in particular is interesting because on the one hand you can also just see, well, they create tons of these gigantic trucks that people who don't need them drive around constantly, sucking down tons of fuel, things like that, using too many resources. They encourage people to buy cars when they don't even need them, blah blah blah, just like any other company does. Well, that's not so sustainable. But then they create like the these hybrid vehicles they're working on, other things like that. Oh well, that's kind of nice. And then they have other sustainable practices. Well, they're doing better than a lot of other companies, but is it enough? In some ways, I would critique and say these great redesigns are a small enough part of the overall operation that they are just being less bad. So they can be critiqued in the same way as McDonough and Baumgart are critiquing others. In addition to that, Ford in particular, there's if you ever have done any kind of like urban studies or some folks in sociology use this kind of terminology, but there's a term called Fordism, and Fordism is the idea that everyone can kind of have one of these great things in their lives. They can have a car, they can have a television, they can have a home that's their very own. All of these things, and it's very much part of the American dream, and it's become part of this American ethos. And it's not totally true. Maybe part of it is, and maybe you could say that everyone in the world deserves a car, but that's in a way we deserve to not have everyone have a car. So Ford has a long history, and I don't think that Henry Ford was doing that necessarily on purpose. In the end, in a lot of ways, he was selling cars. So it's a complex relationship between some things that they're doing well and some things that they aren't, just like with the rest of the world. So there's a lot of those kind of nuances to get into, and it's an interesting topic though. So you made some good points, good video. Probably more than anything, if you could just try and include some applications, some examples from your own life, etc. Get down to the application, the nuts and bolts of how these things look on the ground. You have good ideas, and they definitely deserve to be applied. So I look forward to your next video. Thank you.